Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of the PowettPlay podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by Kieran Powell. How are you, Kai?
I am absolutely shattered. Travel stories, another Caribbean travel story, but I'm here. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, it's decent. I just want to say, obviously, apologise to everyone. I know we mentioned that we'd be putting out the podcast a little bit earlier than we're doing at the moment, but as Kai mentioned then, domestic travel around the Caribbean was definitely not too a bit of a tricky one. So we're here anyway, a little bit later, but hope you all enjoy it anyway. So we touched last week, obviously, on the World Cup, and we discussed a little bit about England getting turned over by New Zealand, and obviously tournament cricket, that style of things, and what works and what doesn't, and how to go about things and stuff. But obviously, with the World Cup now being comfortably underway, there's been a few standout performances. What sort of, leading the way, who's impressed so far for you?
I think South Africa is flying high at the moment. No one necessarily, obviously everyone knows South Africa is a good team, but in terms of tournament play, they've always had that issue of being consistent, especially at the biggest times, actually, delivering and getting across the line. So it's been good to see the fearless nature in which they've actually gone about things. New Zealand, as I mentioned, is obviously a very good tournament play team, and they're just proving that time and time again. They've just been so consistent and just finding ways to win. So I think those are the two standout teams, along with obviously the host nation, India, who just keep moving ahead. India seems to be virtually pretty much unbothered, untested at the moment.
Yeah, I think, going on the South Africa point, one thing I think I've picked up on is that, obviously they have this sort of thing about being chokers or just not managed to get over the line and that sort of stuff. But I think they're reaping the benefits of some of their top players playing in these franchise tournaments around the world. So the fact that Klassen's doing as well as he was doing, Vincent de Kock, with it being his last tournament in South Africa, absolutely flying and leading the way at the top of the order. But because he's been playing in big tournaments now for such a long period of time, that level of expectation, but also from your mindset and how you're prepared, he's probably miles more used to it than previous people in the South African team. They played in front of massive crowds under big pressure, so it's a bit more second nature to them, and I think they're massively reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the names that you call, these are obviously guys that are well established and experienced in franchise cricket. You've also got the likes of David Miller in that team. You've got Aidan Markram, who's absolutely flying as well in this tournament. Can't forget the likes of Kagisa Rabada, who's just world class. So things have gone amazingly for them today.
Yeah, definitely. I think and that's where the next part, the next few games is going to be really important for them, because in the previous, obviously, episode we spoke about momentum and going and how important that is. South Africa have not only got to maintain that, but as the crunch games come, they've got to get that monkey off the back a little bit in terms of like dropping that fact of being a bit of a choker sort of thing. So I think it's really important for them to sort of really make some statements going forward as well. So I think you mentioned there about India. I thought it was a fantastic performance against Pakistan. I was watching the game, and Rizwan and Babar Azam were just going so well. They looked in, fine form. They were playing some superb shots and really sort of building that innings for them. And it just goes to show that X factor impact that they had with Siraj and Bumrah to be able to go and get them two out like that, and then just go through the side. I thought it was a real key part of the importance of the role of the captain with Sharma, the way that when they got Babar Azam out, he brought Bumrah back on straight away. And it was a really, really key part of the game, and I thought he absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, if you remember in the earlier pod, I said that I think that India's got the best captain in the tournament. And, just from being 150 for 2 to 190 all out, just understanding who to bring back, when to bring them back.
Yeah.
The importance of a Kuldeep Yadav as well, who's very principal in that team. He's definitely worked on his game. He's bowling a lot quick, as everyone's mentioned, which is obviously helping him because then batters don't have as much time to adjust. and then Rohit Sharma just absolutely got off to a flyer and just kept going. And we know he's probably the most destructive batter in one-day international cricket. This is a guy that has 3 double centuries in one-day international. So that entire Indian team, whether it's with the bat or with the ball, they just have lots of options to throw at you to find a way to get things done. And they've been flying, as I said.
No, definitely. I think in the first episode when we talked about your life in cricket a bit, we spoke about when you played the major debut, test debut against that India side, and we spoke about Sehwag. I thought the way that Rohit Sharma batted was very similar to how Virender Sehwag sort of went about it. It was very dominant, but very classy in the way that it was as well. I thought it was so impressive. I really did.
Well, as crazy as it is to even fathom, I think Rohit Sharma is even a lot more talented and a lot more effortless than Virender Sehwag. Like it looks like poetry. It looks like something that you get at a theater, something that you get as a classical painting. Like it's just, and we all know, like it's not as easy as it looks for him. And whilst it looks easy for him, we all know it's not easy for him as well. And so that puts added pressure on him, because like people think that, oh my God, this guy is like, it's so easy for him. Like, look at how much time he has, which, it's all just a perception, having more time than anyone else. It's just he picks up the length and trajectory of the ball quicker, microfraction quicker than other people do. But to have that ability and to just have that fearlessness, because to have the ability is one thing, but to be able to execute the way he does in the pressure situations, the way he goes about it, he's now the leading century maker in World Cup cricket, which is absolutely crazy because he's only played 20 innings and he's got 7 centuries in 20 innings. Whereas like, you've had guys that are absolute giants of the game. You think of the Sachin Tendulkars, Ricky Pontings, etc. That have played whether it's 50, 60, 70 World Cup innings and had 5 centuries, and this guy scored 5 centuries in the last World Cup alone, and he's off to another flyer here. So really good for him and augurs well for India.
Yeah, definitely. I think like you were saying there about his impact in the World Cup, it's the biggest stage. So not only is he scoring runs at the highest level anyway, he's scoring them in the biggest games on the biggest stage. So you've actually got to stand back and admire that, really. And like you said, and being captain as well, the knock-on effect that will have throughout the team, the confidence that will instill throughout the team and the squad really will be massive. It really will be. And like I said, you can't look past them at the minute. I think that, the way that New Zealand have been impressive, like we spoke about before, they've just been going around their business sort of quietly. And it probably a little bit might suit them the way that, everyone's sort of raving about India. Someone's going to have to play India in the semis and the finals. But the way that it's set up so far, I think that a team's going to go under the radar a little bit. And I think if they keep ticking over, and keep performing, lads getting spending time at the crease, bowlers getting overs under the belt as well. I think whoever that team may be, whether it will be in New Zealand, for instance, I think that it's going to make for a great contest whether they meet them in the semi or the final, whenever that will be.
I'd actually like to see South Africa India semi-final on one side and the England-New Zealand semi-final on the other side. Because if South Africa are able to get past India, then obviously that does a huge lot for the confidence. Team and that stigma of being chokers, as well as on the other side, sort of a replay for a World Cup final berth between the 2 finalists of the last World Cup. But obviously the tensions and all that went on during that last World Cup final with New Zealand and England. So I think that would be making for amazing cricket. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that you mentioned there about England. I think the performance against Afghanistan was just complete. Like, I'll put it down to complacency, to be honest with you. I think it was just a very laboured performance, and they completely underestimated a side that they focus so much on white ball cricket. They know the game inside out. You might not be to the they beaten England fair play, but some of the higher profile names are not going to be matched the likes of some of the names in the England side, but they know the game inside out. And I think England were complacent and did 100% deserve to get beat.
Yeah, just as I said previously as well, I just don't think that this England team has sort of that X factor, whatever it is, that you feel looking at it compared to the last World Cup that there's just something missing from this team as opposed to the last World Cup. They seem to have everything in place and they seem to have everyone fit and firing.
Yeah.
As whether it was a Jason Roy on top, going absolutely crazy. Obviously, you had Owen Morgan's leadership experience. You had Joshua Archer. You had spinners in form taking wickets. It just feels as though everyone's sort of not in that same place at the moment for this England team. And so it feels as though they're playing catch up, like trying to get into form, same as Australia, but in a major tournament as opposed to South Africa, India, New Zealand, which seem to have players in form and more composed at this point of the tournament.
I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Do you think that with England and Australia both playing in this high intensified Ashes series, do you think that, I know the separate sides, don't get me wrong, but there are some player crossovers. Do you think that could potentially have a bit of an impact on both sides at the minute?
I don't necessarily think so. Just it seems like both of them are undercooked, if that makes sense. They seem to not have had as much time as a unit, as much playing time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, with playing schedules being what they are at the moment globally, you sort of have to do what you have to do, and everyone's a professional at the end of the day. So these are those that will figure it out. It's just a matter of when, not if. But I just think that they just seem to lack that bit of time together playing as a team right now. They could have done with probably another 2 weeks before the start of the World Cup, both sides, in terms of getting a bit more time together.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think there's going to be a few key fixtures over the next few weeks that sort of go and determine what happens, really. I think Australia playing Pakistan on Friday, which is going to be a big game with them both. Well, obviously Australia has won today, but Pakistan are wanting to bounce back. And England play South Africa on Saturday, so that again will be a massive game in the fact that they've had a bit longer time off this time. I know we spoke about that last week in terms of about getting about India and travel and stuff like that. So England have got a bit of time off now as such to be able to concentrate, because that's, as we mentioned about South Africa, they're flying, and England are obviously not performing. So I think it's a bit of an interesting contest on Saturday. That.
Yeah, and I think just in general, as I said in the previous part as well, you want to get off to the best start as possible, because if there is a mid-tournament slump, you're able to sort of recover and regroup and come back and finish strong. Both of these, majority of these teams that we're mentioning now haven't had the greatest start. I think England have lost 2 games, or have they won 2 games? They've lost 2 games.
Yeah. So, New Zealand and Bangladesh, again, I thought it was a great bounce back performance that, people had time at the crease and some, got some runs under the belt, and then they got beat. So it's 2 defeats, 1 win.
So they can't afford to be 3 losses out of 4 in a competition that you see teams are flying at the moment, because then they literally have to go perfect all the way through, which, I mean, they actually found themselves in that situation in the last World Cup as well. But history doesn't always necessarily repeat itself, and you'd want to give yourself as much, freedom to sort of be able to play and make a mistake, as opposed to having to go perfect all the way through. So, no, it's going to be a huge weekend, and not just a huge weekend. I think just for the tournament going forward, like there's you can see lots of things are up for grab very early in the competition, because of the way it started, with certain teams that we would have expected to go a lot further, struggling at the beginning, and other teams taking advantage of that.
Yeah, because going back to England, I thought they would have rested Mark Wood yesterday, or whenever they played. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I thought they would have rested him just to sort of get him to recover again, because the impact of having that real out-and-out pace bowler is going to be pretty important. So I thought they might have rested him. So I was interested to see if he actually played.
Well, I'm not sure if they are able to rest him now, obviously because of the situation that they're in.
That's what I mean.
And that's sort of another bit of a catch-22 for them. Obviously, missing someone like a Jofra Archer on the other end that you can have dual pace, or you can just have one of them play and rotate the other one, whatever the case may be. So those are little factors that they have to figure out. But obviously, I think Ben Stokes will play the next game, which will make a huge impact on England's. Even if he doesn't score, just his presence there, what he does. What he does for English cricket and that team, huge. So that's something to take note of. And obviously, his addition. I mean, he's not bowling in the tournament, but even in the field and the advice that he can offer to the captain, just spotting different things. So I think that it will be not only a good addition for England, but for the World Cup, because we want to see, competitive matches all the way through. And so we need the best players play.
Yeah, and I think we spoke before about Sharma in terms of his performances in the World Cup. Obviously, Ben Stokes not necessarily in the World Cup. Obviously, his innings against New Zealand in the final was superb. But overall, he is someone who performs on the stage. He thrives on the occasion. He thrives on the fact of England being in trouble and performing. So I think that him coming in against South Africa, makes sense as long as he's fit. And I think it could give England that boost with him, like I said, with him just alone his presence, his impact will have a nice impact, I think, on England. So I look forward to seeing that. And then I think on the Sunday as well, you've got to take South Africa out a little bit, but New Zealand play India on Sunday as well. So you probably say two of the the sides that I mentioned to the semi-final, they're going to be playing each other. So that'll be an interesting contest. By the close of this week, I think the World Cup will sort of have a nice little plan in terms of where it's looking to go and who's there or thereabouts and whatnot anyway. So it's definitely opening up nicely. So hopefully, from my perspective, everyone can kick on nicely and get a nice win on Saturday and build a bit of momentum. And we'll see what we get to with that.
Yep, no, definitely. It's shaping up a lot quicker than we anticipated. As I said, with the teams that have lost and with the teams that have won, because for New Zealand to get through to the semi-finals as like an India, it's not far off now because they've got a perfect start. So they can afford a blip, which, I mean, nobody wants a blip, but if there's a situation where you do lose a game or two, you still have points in the bank where other teams are playing catch up, and tough teams have to play tough teams as well, which keeps you ahead, sort of a la Manchester City for the past couple of years in the Premier League. So it is a big weekend, and I guess that's good for cricket and cricket viewers, because I said you get intensified matches, you get people and teams playing tough, hard cricket, exciting, entertaining cricket, and that's good for the World Cup on a whole.
No, definitely. So I think we touched on it before. You're in Trinidad at the moment. You finally got there. So how's prep from your side after the Super 50, and how's things are going over there?
So we got here pretty late last night. Prep in terms of pre-tournament prep, all done, ready to go. We've got an afternoon practice session today, a morning practice session tomorrow, and then we kick off our tournament on Wednesday. I think the actual tournament starts tomorrow. We've got 2 games tomorrow. But for us as the Leeward Islands team, we kick off on Wednesday against Jamaica in a day-night match. So yeah, all ready to go. There's not much that we can do between now and Wednesday. So
yeah,
everyone's looking good, everyone's confident, and it's just time to go out on the field and have some fun and execute.
Yeah, definitely. It looks that, I know obviously it's not, we touched on it last week about the West Indies not being in the World Cup, but I think one benefit from this tournament, perspective is that you've got some of the marquee names playing in that, and I think it'll have a real positive impact within the tournament. So who looks out? Who looks as one of the strongest sides out there?
Well, as you said, because the West Indies haven't qualified, you've got lots of marquee names playing in the tournament. So that's good for the tournament overall. But I think personally, and as a West Indian cricket fan in general, we would hope that this is the last time that we'd have this benefit. We'd rather not have this benefit if that were the case.
Absolutely,
out of the World Cup. But no, there's some good teams out. I mean, everyone's got full firepower. So I don't think there's any bad teams per se. There's obviously the inexperienced teams in terms of the CCC and West Indies Academy. But in terms of all the established regional teams, you've got a good balance where you've got teams like Jamaica, for example, that have got lots of firepower in the batting, lots of power hitters, etc. You've got Guyana that's got good all around, has a good all around game. Likes of Trinidad and Barbados and the Windward Islands as well. So we fancy our chances, and I'm sure all the other teams do as well. So it's just a matter of, just like the World Cup, whoever gets off to a good start and giving themselves a buffer will have a chance to go along in this tournament. You don't want to have to play catch up in these conditions.
Yeah, no, I've been looking through that, with some of the clients obviously been playing for the teams and stuff, and I think it's a very well balanced. Also, in my opinion, it's a very well balanced competition. I think there's going to be some really tight games, and like I said, linking it to the World Cup, it's going to be a momentum thing, and who gets off to a good start. In terms of I wanted to mention there about the combined CC sort of situation and the West Indies Academy. How important is it for the younger generation who play in the two teams there mentioned? How important is it for their development to play in these sort of tournaments with experienced pros like yourself, really?
Well, I haven't really given it much thought, or nor do I know how I particularly feel about them playing in it. Whether it should be a situation like in the UK where before the season starts, like you have counties playing against universities in 3-day games and etc. Them being a part of the full tournament. But in terms of obviously it being an opportunity for young players, they're not going to get this unless they're playing for their regional team. So it's definitely something they wouldn't have had. And they've included in the 4-day setup as well, which is a benefit to them. It's just for them to grab the opportunity and prove that, obviously, it doesn't even have to be winning, but just putting up solid performances and showing that, I am someone, whoever the player is, I am someone that, my regional team, whichever region of the Caribbean they're from, there's someone that their regional team should be looking at for the future. So I think that's what it's all about, just grooming and adding additional players to the talent pool of the West Indies and giving opportunities to young players that the West Indies Cricket Board think have an opportunity to go further.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. Well, hopefully, like I said, it'll be really good to keep an eye on, and it'd be good to get you have a catch up mid-tournament as well to see how things are going, and again, similar to who's impressing and who's doing well and how it's going over there. But I sort of briefly wanted to there's two things I wanted to look at. I want to discuss Alastair Cook retiring. I think that him being a left-handed opener like yourself, I wanted to have a bit of that. I also wanted to speak to you briefly about the news that broke today about the Olympics in LA. Cricket will be featuring in it, and sort of the impact that it'll have on the sport, to the wider audience. So, in terms of Alastair Cook retiring, I think that what a fantastic opener, the skills he's shown, the real resilience as a player. You've been fortunate to share a field in numerous occasions. So, fair play to him, and he deserved to go out the way he did as well.
Yes, funnily enough, I saw some guys in our chat saying that Alastair Cook has retired twice and Jimmy Anderson's still playing. It's so funny. And Jimmy, I think, obviously started before Alastair Cook, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But no, he's had a fantastic career, both at international and county level. Someone that has made not only a name for himself, but like the way he plays and obviously the impact he had on the game and England up until recently, not having filled that void from since he's retired. So testament to him on what an impact he's had on English cricket and the game on a whole. To have someone that gotten knighted for sporting performances tells you, you know, what a legend of the game he is in itself. So congratulations to him on not only inspiring other left-handed openers like myself or left-handed batters in general, but just batters and cricketers and cricket lovers and fans. You know, particularly two series that stick with me from Alastair Cook is that series when England won in Australia 3-1.
Yeah.
And the series when they won in India, and he scored loads of runs in both series as well, you know. And it was just someone that once he got in, like, it was impossible to sort of dislodge him. So, no, fair play to him. Hope he enjoys life after cricket. And what people tend to forget is that life after cricket is twice as long as life as a professional athlete, you know. So hopefully, you know, he has everything lined up. He's able to enjoy his family time, enjoy his second career, whatever that may be, and just he's put in the hard work, so he should be afforded the luxury of enjoying life now.
Yeah, definitely. I think you mentioned there about, you know, him retiring, you know, for obviously from he obviously retired from an international perspective, but then he retired officially from cricket last week. But the fact he went back to playing county cricket, I thought was a real sort of a really important thing, in the fact that you know, everything he's achieved in playing international cricket, to then go and finish with his home county, and the impact he probably would have had on the players in that changing room, and the lessons that they would have learned, and the way that they would have seen him go about it from a professionalism perspective, but also under certain situations, under certain circumstances, the experience he would have passed on would have been, you know, completely just invaluable. I think that me and you spoke about it again. We talked about from a league perspective, when we have professionals who go and play league cricket, like what we learn and stuff. It's just you can't put a price on it. And I think that the impact he would have had the same impact from international down into that county circuit. It's just so important.
Yeah, and it's obviously the learnings and the things that would have taken place from him passing on to the younger generation of Essex would have been not only invaluable for them, but like you could see the end result on the field as well, because Essex has been pushing Surrey for years, and obviously won a few championships in between in his last bit as a first class cricketer. And these are two counties with huge financial differences in terms of the budgets that they have, and for Essex to be able to compete year in year out is a testament to obviously the things that they're doing as a club, and obviously Alistair's leadership on and off the field. They would have been massive for them, but to have not only the want but the desire to go back and play county cricket after having such a stellar international career. You find most guys just retire from international cricket, and
at that point.
Exactly. So for him to have gone back to play county cricket, not for one season, not for 2 seasons, but for quite a bit of time after as well, shows not just his love for his home county, but for the game, which is genuinely what is important. You know, that guys like him that have obtained the highest level of success and achievements across the world still love the game so much that he goes back and gives back to the game, gives back to his county, gives back to that community of Chelmsford in Essex, and, you know, all the young players across the country, because obviously it's not just guys at Essex that would have benefited from you know, some young kid somewhere in Nottinghamshire that went to a day of a county championship and had the opportunity to speak to him for 5 minutes, but that may spark him and be his motivation to want to become a professional cricketer and maybe an England international cricketer at some point. You know, so things like these are what really matters in the game. You know, the way that you can impact other people's lives and make friends and inspire future generations. And so he's been a giant of the game. I'm pretty sure that we'll still see him in the game along the way. He does commentary in the summers as well. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to be lost from the game, which is good for cricket all around, because that level of experience and exposure needs to be shared to the next generation, and, you know, to keep cricket alive.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. Like, well, just to summarize what you said there, it's a credit to himself. Real credit to do what he did and things. And Sir Alastair Cook, as an England cricket fan, he's been absolutely super. He's been one of the best ever to do it. I think that we talked about the impact on that Bazball had over the summer and how it's been. He would walk straight back into that England team, and he goes and regardless of the style of play he had versus what Brendan McCullum was trying to achieve, he can just bat for days. So it is what it is. Yeah, he might not play as aggressive as the openers do nowadays, or what he wants to do style of play, but he would still walk into that side without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, he did play in probably the most successful England Test team at a period in time. So, I mean, this is someone that, whilst he wasn't Bazball, he was highly effective in a successful unit with lots of superstars around him. So he was value for money every single time. Yeah,
definitely. So, I just wanted to finish it a little bit in terms of the cricket being played in the Olympics in LA in 2028, I think it is, or either wrongly.
Yeah.
How do you feel like it has an impact on the sport we both love, really?
I think it's amazing because cricket, being the second largest sport in the world, is still highly underrepresented in most of the world. Let's be honest. Cricket is only played in a very niche, small amount of countries. Like, lots of people don't even know what cricket is.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think, with cricket having over 2 billion followers globally. So this gives us exposure to, obviously, not just new markets, but new teams coming in to play cricket, new revenue streams, new ways of doing things. Because think of the inventions countries like Japan might have coming into cricket, the way that they might bowl or recovery or whatever the case is, and just every little thing adds up, having new ideas and new markets exposed to the game that we love so much. And obviously at the Olympics, you're mixing and mingling with the biggest and the best of all sports. It's the best of the best. So I think it's great for cricket. Another great step. It's going to be interesting to see what teams are competing at this initial event, how they go about selecting what teams are competing. Obviously, it's going to be a T20 format, as that's probably the most appeasing format for consumers to take in. In obviously what is a quick moving event, the Olympics. But no, I think it's definitely great, and a great addition for the sport. It's going to be interesting future editions of the Olympics to see how sort of cricket is maintained, or is it going to be sort of a one-off thing? Because obviously the US are making a huge push into cricket as well. Thus, they have cricketing facilities and the need to build cricketing facilities. Whereas if it's played in a South American country, for example, and Argentina, there are no cricket infrastructure there. There's no. So how do they go about sort of these things in future editions of the Olympics will be as interesting as cricket being allowed back into the 2028 edition of the Olympics.
No, definitely. Yeah, I really appreciate your insight on that, because I know we spoke about it before and stuff. So I think that it'd be interesting to see how it unfolds and how they go about it and things. So thank you very much, as always, for the insights and the review on the World Cup so far and the Super 50. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure as always.
Thanks, Jordan. It's been great speaking again, and we'll keep these great episodes coming.
Definitely. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.